when you're eating chaka, you need a nice bowl of it. So, because this one is really, really good. And this is all for me. It's a lot. It's delicious. It's well made. Homemade with love.